Which would those companies be, Gaurav? That's a big question. Let's ask independent market expert Mahantesh Sabarad, who's joining us on India Tonight. Great to have you with us. If you look at the third quarter numbers, Mahantesh, and I'm sure you've been looking at them very closely, what do you take away from them? Does it give you a sense of direction that the markets are likely to take as we head into the next quarter? As far as interest rate cycle is concerned, like Gaurav pointed out, in terms of demand, global demand, all of that is going to come into play. The moving pieces are right out there. So what are the indications from the third quarter numbers?
So, firstly, from the third quarter number, if you just look at the top line kind of numbers, many of the companies reported solid numbers when it comes to the top line growth numbers as far as top line is concerned. There's sufficient growth. Particularly, you did talk about automobile companies. You also have the metals and capital goods companies doing relatively better on the top line front. Expectedly, you had the IT companies actually underperform a bit because the top line growth was very tepid. Not just that, they also had a margin squeeze. But all said and done, with the upcoming quarter, where we will soon have the year end numbers coming in, most of the companies are better poised simply because the top line growth is growing quite solid. Very few companies are showing margin stress. And you also have a lot of recoveries likely to come through, particularly on the bank side as we go forward.
Recent rally that you've talked about when you talk about banks in particular, but PSU stocks in general, do you see more value in those stocks up ahead? Which are the pockets that you see maximum opportunities emerge now?
Oh, actually, Vikram, I am quite negative on the PSE stock, not simply because of any fundamental reasons, but because of the fact that they have gone into super valuation kind of territory, particularly the railway stocks. So it's going to be very difficult to take further bets on the PSE stock going ahead. Most of the PSU stocks are beyond comfort valuations right now.
Stocks, because they have risen. If you look at the earnings and you look at the performance this week as well, they have been rising. Do you see further value in that pocket?
Not really. You had better performances coming from the likes of PSU banks. You had better performances coming in from some of the oil and gas companies belonging to the PSU side. But you don't have necessarily such better performances getting repeated across the spectrum of PSU stocks. And I did single out the railway ones to tell you that they seem to be growing beyond valuation comfort.
Was talking about the power sector and power ancillaries as well. Do you also see that as an opportunity?
Now, when it comes to the power sector, there is only a small pocket of growth that is visible, particularly on the thermal power generation side, not necessarily on the distribution side. But that pocket of opportunity is very limited, and you have very few stocks available in that particular pocket. Generation, for example, among the Nifty 50s, the only companies which is available in the generation space is NTPC. You have a power grid corporation, but that is not in the generation space at all. I really don't want to pick any one stock against the other. But like I said, it's just a small pocket of growth that is available, and that's far too limited.
For the RBI doing a pivot on interest rates?
What's really happening with the interest rate is, fortunately, the good part is that the interest rates are far more stable now. And while we may have inflation as a worry that will keep cropping up, we still have a situation where the government borrowing program is not too large. And you have, generally speaking, overall global flows going to be quite positive as far as India is concerned, thereby obviating any need for a policy action on the adverse side. When I say adverse side, that means the pivot that you're talking about in terms of rising interest rates. I really don't foresee that happening. You did have a situation where Fed was getting worried about inflation perking up in the US. but I believe that's again a temporary kind of phenomenon which doesn't require a policy action as of now.
Well, we'll keep reconnecting with you to see the kind of direction the markets will take in the quarter gone by. A solid third quarter is what we've seen, perhaps a little higher than where expectations were pegged. Mahantesh, always a pleasure getting in your perspective. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of India Tonight.